Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the May the 9th, 2017 Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're going to start tonight with an invocation by Alderman Barnhill. I'll lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll join me in standing.
Would you bow, please? Heavenly Father, again, we come to you tonight in prayer. Thank you for this day and for all the opportunities and for all the blessings that we have. We recognize that we are truly a blessed nation. We see a lot of other countries that are suffering, where their residents are suffering, the citizens are suffering. We ask that you be with the leaders of all these nations and the leaders of this nation. Help them overcome whatever it is that they have to overcome. We also ask that you be with each of us tonight as we make decisions that ultimately affect the city of Franklin and the citizens of Franklin. Give us spiritual wisdom and guidance. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to make comments on items that are not on the agenda. Typically, if you plan to make comments, we request that you fill out a card to let us know your desire to speak, and I don't have any, so I assume there are no comments tonight. We'll move on to communications from the Williamson County Commission. I don't see anyone here tonight. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from April the 25th, 2017 work session, April 25th, 2017 Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there an
approval.
appropriate motion by Alderman Blanton?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I'm going to step down to the podium now, if I may. And I'd like to invite Staff Sergeant Van Booth up to join me. Sergeant Booth recently contacted the city. Come on up, you're close. He is a retired serviceman. I don't know how many years you served.
20 years.
20 years. Well, congratulations on that, and we appreciate your service to our country, and looking at some of those things you have on your lapel are very impressive. So we're going to do a proclamation about Veteran Awareness Day. And whereas Franklin is a city with long-standing history for its support and appreciation of veterans, and whereas over 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and whereas per the VA, as much as 30% of Iraq and Afghani war veterans have post-traumatic stress disorder, and whereas these men and women have served our country with distinction and honor and answered when America called, we are calling on America to help take care of our veterans. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Dr. Ken Moore, Mayor, hereby proclaim Saturday, May the 20th, 2017 as Veterans Awareness Day. And I would ask you to join me in recognizing this day and applauding for someone that has served our country. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Sergeant.
Thank you, sir.
Glad you're back. On Memorial Day. I'm going to stay here a minute and make a few more announcements. The first announcement is of special interest to the board and our community. We've had a want list for a long time on a number of road projects, and I'm glad to announce that today Commissioner Schroer released the next 3-year plan for Tennessee Department of Transportation. And on that plan, there is a significant project called the Mack Hatcher Parkway Northwest Extension. And the significant thing is that the date for starting construction is 2018. In other words, it's in the first year of a 3-year plan. And what that means is my understanding that in the first year, that is definite funding. If it's in years 2 or 3, it probably is, but it's not guaranteed. So we will continue to work with Tennessee Department of Transportation to hasten this project forward. And also, we've already had a conversation with the Metropolitan Planning Organization to make sure that it's on their 3-year tip to move forward. So we applaud all the hard work by staff and each one of the board and many others that have worked to bring this road finally to reality. And we applaud our General Assembly, who also helped by passing a plan to help fund transportation in a sustainable fashion for the future. Just as a side note, another project that is on that list that significantly affects us is the widening of 96 East from Arno Road to Wilson Pike. And this also has a year 2018 attached. So fortunately and unfortunately, the flower for Franklin will again become the orange cone. So we continue to work to address the issues of rapid growth and also the transportation issues, and this certainly will offer some help in that area. The other report I had was that last night I had the opportunity to attend the ULI meeting in Nashville. I think it's the Urban Land Institute, and there were 18 projects that were recognized and nominated for awards. There were 3 projects in Williamson County that were in the finalist group. One was Homestead Manor in Thompson Station, but there were 2 projects in Franklin. One was the old jail, and the other project was the multi-purpose horse arena at Harlansdale. Well, sadly, we didn't bring home a victory, but the fact that out of 18 projects, 3 of them came out of Williamson County for the Nashville ULI Awards, I think is very significant. So we want to applaud particularly our Heritage Foundation, who had one of those projects, and our small portion that we had to do with their old jail project, and also the work that we did with Friends of Franklin Park and our contribution to that to help bring that project forward. So are there any other miscellaneous reports at this time? If not, we'll... Okay, you go ahead, and I'm going to walk up to do the next item.
Sure. The 68th Annual Rodeo Parade is this Saturday at noon. Help me.
Noon.
I got the date, noon. So that's always a fun event, followed up by the rodeo the following week. And of course, Sunday is Mother's Day.
So, good report. Any other miscellaneous reports? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and all items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body, and they will be approved as recommended by committee or staff by one motion of the governing body. The items we're considering tonight are items number 16 through 26. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Appropriate motion, seconded by Alderman Blanton. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 4. This is a public hearing, consideration of ordinance 2017-02, an ordinance to amend various sections of Chapter 4, Title 16, and Chapter 16 of Appendix A of the Franklin Municipal Code concerning road impact fees. Does anyone want to speak to the body? You're welcome to come forward to the podium at this time. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Would entertain a motion.
So move with comment.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Skinner. Alderman Barnhill.
I'd just like to make sure I get clarification as to when this goes into effect and what part, if a project is already in the pipeline for the city, how this ordinance being passed would affect a particular project. And that's pretty general, Vernon, but that's when you answer that, I may be more specific on something else then.
Well, the ordinance is intended to go in effect July 1st,
Okay?
okay? And part of that ordinance talks about that when a plat is recorded, that the time that what the impact fees were at the time of the recording of that plat remain in effect for those parcels on that plat, okay? So, let's say a plat was recorded in a neighborhood a year and a half ago, and it had 40 lots on that plat, and maybe they're only half built out today, that the fee that was in effect a year and a half ago carries through that entire plat. So if it takes another couple years, that fee stays into effect. Now, if there's a site plan that gets approved after July 1st, then that would be, the impact fee would be applied to that.
The new rate.
Yes. That didn't we didn't need a plat, but most projects you have a new plat.
Other comments or questions? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 5-1. Whoops, let's see, that's 4-1, I'm sorry. I'm not counting good. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, which is, this is a public hearing, consideration of resolution 2017-009 to be entitled, a resolution approving a revised development plan for Simmons Ridge PUD subdivision with one modification of standard for the property located east of Carruthers Parkway and north of South Carruthers Road. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this body? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Josh, did you want to make a comment? You look very ready.
Ready to answer any questions you have, Mayor.
So we'll entertain a motion and then we'll vote on the modification standard.
Move for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Barnhill. We'll now take up the modification standard. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the modification of standards for backing onto public street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Appropriate second by Alderman Barnhill. Any discussion? Ready to vote on the modification standard? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Modification standard passes. Now vote on the entire motion with the modification standard. Ready? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 6, this is a public hearing. Consider resolution 2017-14 to be entitled, a resolution approving a revised development plan for Harpeth Square PUD subdivision with 5 existing modification of development standards for the property located within the block of First Avenue, Bridge Street, Second Avenue North, and East Main Street. Is there anyone who wants to speak to this body? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Skinner. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 7, this is a public hearing. Consideration of ordinance 2017-06 to be entitled, an ordinance to rezone 4.66 acres from specific developmental variety district 33.4 35,000/115 district to specific developmental variety 33.4 /35,000/119 district for the property located within the within the block of First Avenue, Bridge Street, Second Avenue North, and East Main Street, Harpeth Square PUD subdivision. Anyone want to speak to this body? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion,
Second.
Alderman Barnhill, seconded by Alderman Skinner. Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 8, consideration resolution 2017-28, a resolution authorizing and providing for the financing of the construction of a wastewater facilities project, including authorizing the execution of applications, contractual agreements, and other necessary documents, and making certain representations, certification, and pledges of certain revenue in connection with such financing for the water reclamation facility upgrades and expansion project with the state revolving loan fund.
Mayor,
Alderman McClendon.
I'm going to move approval of this resolution with 2 conditions. One, that the greenhouse drying portion of the project which is a design option, be eliminated. And two, that the staff prepare a follow-on resolution for us to express our commitment to continuing to consider alternative technology in the final design.
Second.
Appropriate motion, second. Go ahead and comment.
The reason that I make those motions is that I'm told that this resolution is actually written on high, and people like us are not allowed to modify it or amend it. So we're stuck with the language of the resolution if we want to be considered for the financing. I'm convinced that the financing is appropriate and necessary regardless of which project or what project we ultimately choose to do, but I want to make clear that the city has considered and decided to eliminate the greenhouse portion of the project, as well as that we continue to give sincere consideration to alternative treatment methodologies pending the final evaluation of those meeting our criteria.
Any other discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-1 with Alderman Skinner opposing. Item number 9 is consideration of Resolution 2017-29, a resolution to approve financing of the water reclamation facility upgrades and expansion project with the state revolving loan fund. Is there a motion?
Same motion as last time, Mayor. I move that we approve this resolution on two conditions. One, that the greenhouse drying options are removed from the design, as a design option from the final plan. And two, that we continue to evaluate alternative technologies for the treatment process until we make a final decision on the design.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Blanton. Ready for discussion?
Same reasons, we need the financing. It's not, this is the best that I can do to make it clear that we are not going to do the greenhouses, secure the financing at favorable rates, and continue to explore what may or may not be viable options on the technology as we make a decision that is, $110 million, and a decision that will be one that, is a 10, 20, 30, 40-year decision.
Alderman Skinner.
We've spent years on studying the integrated water and plant. We use consultants. We had an advisory committee made up of experts, people from the community that served for many, many meetings that went into details far beyond what any of us can remember. There were evaluations, there was scoring to get us to where this is today. Now, for us to come in and eliminate part of the process sort of haphazardly, I think it's beneath the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to throw away all the work and time that has been spent on this. Just 2 weeks ago, there was a facility in West Tennessee that closed and is no longer available to accept a more hazardous waste. As this continues to happen, we're going to have to find other places to put our sludge products. This has been worked out in detail. Mark Kilty's people found that there were brokers. This was a special product then that would not require testing again and again and again to confirm that the process was complete, to make it a 1A product that could be used almost anywhere. And for us to jump in and just eliminate the drying of the greenhouse, that makes this palatable to the brokers to be able to haul is ill-advised.
Alderman McClendon.
Eliminating the greenhouse doesn't eliminate the final product being saleable to brokers. It merely eliminates an unnecessary and undue burden upon the neighborhood. There are alternative means to dry, to lower the moisture content to the level that we will have a marketable product. The greenhouses would, in my opinion, be a substantial and unnecessary burden, and we have alternative measures that it was always a design option. It was, I don't recall, it was specified in the Integrated Water Resource Plan as something that we would do. And the alternatives will be simple mechanical drying, which won't be the same physical or potential for nuisance burden upon the neighborhood. So we're gonna wind up with the same Class A EQ marketable product. We're just going to do it without imposing a new and undue burden upon the neighbors.
Mayor,
Alderman Skinner, and then Alderman, if that's okay with you,
that's
Alderman
fine,
Barnhill?
yeah.
Let him make his final comment.
Part of the reason that the solar dryers were suggested is because of their long-term sustainability. If you have to use some sort of drying process with heating and belt dryers that are all old technology, then we're going to pay a price for that. Whereas a solar dryer is much more sustainable and a reasonable process. There's no guarantee that there won't be issues with another process with the neighborhood. There was one years ago that they were trying to add an extra treatment, but they never could get it to work without producing odor.
Alderman Barnhill.
I guess my question is more to the city administrator than it is. You've heard the motions. We've looked, and if I remember right, the last time we looked at this, it was $80 million. I think you quoted 110.
Well, the project's under 10, the loan's 80.
And I'm just wondering what that does to our permit process, what that does to lengthen the stages that we've already gone through. If you anticipate additional costs based upon this, we certainly have vetted this thing for quite some time now. And suddenly, I guess suddenly, maybe that's maybe a little bit of mistaken wording, but suddenly it's 2 weeks. We're looking at scrapping part of the process and going to something different. What is yours or Mark's or anybody else's take on this right here?
Well, we had suggested the adjustment in terms of the drawing. It had always been a bid alternate, not a part of the core
Okay.
project, because there are options that we can explore, and recognizing the potential impact on the neighborhood and some of the other choices, we had offered to go in a different direction.
Okay.
And so feel that that's appropriate. The overall project is in the $108, $110 million range estimate. This is a loan for $80 million of that component. And so feel that that is appropriate, given where we are. We are going to continue to look at other technology options, especially as it relates to biosolids, and are engaging with both vendors and with regulators to understand what that might mean for the project. So there'll be some additional follow-up meeting on that by the end of the month. And then I expect we'll have some further discussion with the board about where we go from a process and timing and cost standpoint from there, about how this process will play out for final decisions and for moving forward with bidding. In terms of the permit, really our permit is a discharge permit. And so it relates really to how we are interfacing with the river, more so than how we handle the specific elements of drying or handling a biosolid. It's absolutely true that we want to hit that Class A EQ standard because that gives us the most viable options possible. Long-term is the best place to be, gives us a product that we could actually sell in the marketplace because of its benefits. So I think that is clearly the target we want to hit. We're looking at the best paths to get there. And that work will continue as we look at alternatives and also take into account how regulators are viewing those options and approaches and what that might mean for our specific project.
So the greenhouse or the belt drying process, either one will get you to the AE.
Well, let me be clear.
Aye.
When it comes out of the treatment process, it is a Class A EQ. The drying component is really getting us to that consistency that the market wants, or that we understood the market wants. It comes out, at least in terms of the initial design that we have in place, comes out at around a 35–40% dry material. And what we had heard from, in our integrated water resource process, from brokers and folks who work with that 60% dry target was more viable in the marketplace. So that was what drove looking at the solar drying and the drying techniques to get us to that consistency. But we do not need the drying to reach the Class A EQ.
We don't need the greenhouse or the mechanical drying to take it to any landfill we want.
Right. But there may be some benefit to get it to a certain consistency in terms of the market. That'll be part of what we look at and have some further decisions to make in terms of what we ultimately bid and work with from there.
It's the difference between, we can get rid of it, once it's Class A EQ, before drying, we can take it to any landfill we want that we have a contract with. Drying it makes it marketable,
More marketable. Yeah.
more marketable.
Mhm.
So that's, we could eliminate all drying and still have Class A EQ and solve our landfill problems.
So, yeah, so.
And
part-
no option that we're considering doesn't result in Class A EQ.
No, I don't totally agree with that. I don't think it solves all of our landfill problems if we've got landfills that are closing that we're going to.
Well,
And that, so
creates
I
the-
think what
Yeah,
we need to
one
be,
at a time.
well, then what we need to be looking at is alternatives to landfill.
And
as
what
far
we
as
produce today is an unclassified sludge. That's where we have the problem with limited options on where to take it. And that's a driving factor in the integrated plan, and the other planning we've done is to get to this Class A EQ that gives us the widest number of options. And again, that is the target that we have put in this process from very early on, because we recognized the exposure, quite frankly, that we have from a cost and sustainability standpoint. And to get to the Class A EQ is really the goal that gives us the best long-term options and flexibility in terms of how we handle that end product from the process.
Just one more observation. So if we say, okay, we're not going to dry this as much as a broker would want it to use, say on a field or as soil supplements for that, then we're going to be forced to take it to a landfill where we're going to have to pay tipping fees on weight of this instead of having a broker pay us for this to use it in his business. So that's part of the choice that we have if we don't.
Well,
Get
let me
it
be
dry.
clear. We're not saying that that's the decision you're making tonight. You are eliminating one option for drying, which was the solar drying, which had been a bid alternate all along. We hadn't had it in the base project. We are still going to look at what the best options are beyond that to get a drying and get to a consistency that is most palatable to the market, most attractive to the market. We will, and that will be a discussion that we'll continue to have with both brokers and also looking at what technologies or blending with compost or whatever else that might be that gets us to a consistency that works in the market. So that's not changing. We're not going away from that. We're just looking at other alternatives, and we're taking one off the table with the direction that you're providing
All right.
tonight.
Mayor, the last thing I want to say is, we don't have anybody brokering or lined up to broker or ready to buy anything yet. So making this choice now doesn't mean we're not, we haven't gotten to the point where we have brokers and markets and prices and all that. We will, but it's not as if we're taking that off the table or taking that out of the equation. I mean, the decision that this motion simply says, we're gonna be good neighbors as we do this. Because the greenhouse option, this is not your backyard greenhouse. These structures are large, very large, and would substantially change the nature and character of the way we relate to our neighbors at Chestnut Bend. And it's just not something we should be doing to people who are our neighbors at that facility.
Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Next is a consideration of a request to deny sanitary sewer for the property located at 1134 Beaches Tavern Trail.
Move for approval. Deny. I know it's confusing.
Yeah, I think
Don't we really
if I
want to
may,
say we
before
will
you
accept
make
it
a
if they
motion, could
annex
we have some clarification on this property? This is property actually within our urban growth boundary. It's very close to where our sewer lines run already in the city, and sewer availability is there, is my understanding.
The way we had talked about this most recently was that we would handle this consistent with our policy and other development opportunities, that if the property owner annexed into the city, they would be provided sewer service. But absent that, they would not. And so that's consistent with our development policy generally.
Is this contiguous to the city, or would this be an island?
It is contiguous to the city, both these both
Highgate.
these two properties.
So my motion,
Alderman.
there is a motion?
Alderman Blanton, I stopped her because I wanted to make sure that there was clarification on it. So I still will entertain a motion.
Or approve the denial. Is that clean?
That,
That's your motion, but
I'm confused.
I don't
Go
think
ahead,
that's
Dana.
consistent with what I just
You
described.
you can get a second on
I
that.
got- I
and
got a-
vote
I
on that.
second,
I'll
yeah.
second that.
okay.
Now,
I would advocate that we move, that the result here be that we offer sewer contingent upon a request for and completion of annexation. That has been our longstanding policy to not extend sewer outside the city, so we can, and if let me pull back the curtain a bit. I'd like to say we all know what's going on here, okay? We're only getting this request because they need to be denied so that they can go to the county and get approval for what they want to do, because the county makes them come here and ask us and get denied. But it is prudent policy for us to say to people who are in our urban growth boundary, particularly people who are contiguous to the city, that we can serve. It is prudent planning policy for us to tell them, we can serve you, we built our infrastructure to serve you, and if you will only ask to be annexed, we will serve you. If they never ask to be annexed, that's up to them. We can't compel them to be annexed. So, I don't want to be put in the position of offering a perfunctory denial for the convenience of the county or the applicants. That's, what I want to do is be in the business of making rational and prudent policy decisions. And in my view, the appropriate policy decision is to offer them sewer contingent upon a request for and completion of annexation.
well, based upon the motion, a no vote
It's different.
is different.
Well, here's my question then. What does the proposed idea do? If it says, if you will be annexed, then we will allow sewer.
Well,
If you don't, does that still mean,
so
that
the
means we
reality
deny it,
is,
right?
the reality is this. If they ask for annexation, in this particular instance, the reality is, if they ask for annexation and we annex, they will be governed by our development standards, which will remove a large portion of this property from development. If, that is just the way it would work, because we have hillside ordinances and other rules that don't apply if they're in the county. Assuming for the sake of discussion that the applicant would really rather develop in the county, then they want to be told no, so that they can go get their permits and development opportunities and entitlements from the county. But the county, they are only here because the county makes them get a denial. So I don't want to be pejorative about this, but I don't want to play that game. That's not good development policy, and I don't like being put in that position. And the only policy to me that makes sense, that is consistent from time to time, is to tell an applicant, if you want sewer, request annexation. And if we annex you, you will have sewer. And then let the county and the applicant go wrestle with that. That's not our problem. We need to be making good decisions about planning and growth and infrastructure, not being put into the ridiculous position of putting a no stamp on something when someone actually comes in and asks for a yes and winks at us and says, I don't, I really want this sewer.
Alderman
That's silly.
Peterson?
But I understand, and I agree with the reasoning there. However, if all we say is, if you ask to be annexed, then we will grant you sewer.
We will, if you're annexed.
But, I mean, and I'm thinking, what's the contrapositive to that? If you don't ask for it, then,
We won't annex you,
Then-
and you can go make whatever deal with the county they will let you make.
If they'll make a deal.
That's-
So
and-
they
and
can
we-
argue,
Now, that's
they can argue
right.
whatever they want to argue.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's up to the county and the
not
applicant.
ours.
I just don't want to be put in this position anymore. Maybe they'll stop asking. When they really want the answer to be no, they'll stop asking.
Okay, any other comments? Is everybody clear on the issue? You ready to vote?
What is
Well,
the
wait.
motion?
The
Yeah,
motion
that's
is
where
to
I'm
deny.
not clear.
Do you want to
To
withdraw
be
your
clear, I'm going to
motion
vote
and-
against the motion
Yeah,
and then make
I-
one of my own if
Yeah,
it's
a
defeated.
no vote denies the
Right.
motion, and that's what we want to get to, I think.
That's where
Sure.
I'm at. You could withdraw the motion.
All right.
Okay.
Alderman Blanton's withdrawn her motion. Is that appropriate? So,
Withdraw my second.
so I would still consider a motion on the issue. Alderman McClendon.
Mayor, I move that we grant sewer, grant the request for sewer contingent upon a request for and completion of annexation.
But they're not asking for sewer, they don't. They're asking.
That's their problem. And I'm not trying to be difficult.
No,
I'm
no
trying to
problem.
make good
Wait a minute,
planning decisions.
Wait a minute, I'm looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, now open for discussion.
Sincerely, I'm not trying to be difficult.
Oh, I get it.
But,
I
but
understand.
we need to be making prudent planning decisions, not being drawn into an elaborate game of shell game, where they really want to know, but they ask for a yes. That's happening. The proper result here is for them to be annexed and developed under city standards. But for the legislature's wisdom of denying our authority to annex within the urban growth boundary except by request, this would be a no-brainer. But we get the hand that we get, so.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman
My,
Peterson?
my other comment is that in this case, it is right there. In other words, as opposed to some other places where they're 1,000 feet away.
That would be different.
Yes, I agree. Okay, just want to say that.
Okay, ready to vote? All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item 11, consideration of a request to deny sanitary sewer request for the property located at 1126 Beaches Tavern Trail.
Mayor,
Alderman McClendon.
I make the motion that we approve the request for sewer contingent upon a request for and completion of annexation.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Second by Alderman Barnhill. Any other discussion? Seeing none, ready to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes unanimously. Item number 12, consideration of request for water availability approval for 1708 Berry's Chapel Road. Is there a motion? This is one we had on work session tonight, to refresh your memory.
I move that we agree to their request.
Appropriate motion to, is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
Just-
It's for clarification,
it's water.
Just one.
it's water, it's within our service area, it's not in our UGB, but it's in our water service area.
And to be clear, if we say no, then we not only don't provide water, but we forfeit the service area to the next service, to the next utility over there. Right. So that would not be a prudent policy choice for us to make.
Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 13, consider resolution 2017-31, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into contracts for emergency investigation and repair activities related to the Harpeth River interceptors.
So move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 14 is consideration of amendment to the City of Franklin contract 2016-316 with Hazen and Sawyer for assessment of the Harpeth River interceptor. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Appropriate motion, second by Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? Seeing none, ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Are there any items, do we need to go into executive session?
You have item
Right,
15,
it's
sir.
15.
One more item.
I have to turn the page. Getting rather laborious. Okay, item number 15, consideration of amendment number 1 of the professional services agreement with Smith Seckman Reed, Inc. for the Curd Branch and Watson Branch Interceptor Sewer Improvements projects in amount not to exceed $45,500. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Blanton. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, I'll go back to my question. Is there any reason to go into executive session? If not, I will look
Move
for
to
a motion to adjourn. Appropriate
Second.
motion, seconded by Alderman Skinner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Oh, thank you.